I'm Dr. Chris Landon. I'm a pediatrician, a pediatric pulmonologist. We do global health through the Landon Pediatric Foundation. I'm quite fortunate to be able to provide care for patients here in Ventura County.
Hey, Doctor, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me. This is great, Fernando. Thank you.
It's the second time talking to you now. And my question is this, it's deep in my thoughts and my mind is, what was that deciding factor when you were a kid that made this decision of you becoming, your profession being a doctor? So what was it that moment in time where it clicked?
Oh, becoming a doctor?
Yes.
Well, I've always been interested in science ever since I was a teeny tiny child. So in college, I was actually working with stump-tailed cat monkeys around social deprivation. So we put them in little cages where they didn't have access. Others, and so at 4 in the morning, I went in, and I saw, oh my gosh, our 80-pound IBM computer was smashed to bits by the IBM cards. This is a long time ago. We're all on the floor, and so I was putting my key in the door rattled back, and that was the father of the babies that we had been sacrificing, and he was going to kill somebody. So my next door neighbor said, you can get more grants with an MD than a PhD. You should apply to medical school. So I applied to one medical school, USC, and went through there, and then this doctor thing was working out, so I was going to be an internist, and then applied up at Stanford for internal medicine, and didn't look like a great program for what I wanted. I was walking by, and this pediatrician was there, and he said, "Yeah, you should apply in pediatrics here." And so I applied there, and ended up going into pediatrics. My first patient had cystic fibrosis, and that got my career going in cystic fibrosis, interested in pediatric lungs and the like. So
you're so deeply involved in film, executive producing. How come that didn't happen? How that, you told me since you were really young, you were also into it as well. So how come it went to the doctor side, not to the film side back then?
Well, I probably teenage rebellion. So my dad, after World War II, went back to, was at USC as a sports person. So my father left USC, married my mother, had 1.2 children, had a degree in journalism, decided, New York is the place to be. So he moved the family to New York. He was working at Hill and Range Publishing as a mail boy with the little wire baskets and like. And then looked at the albums at the time, which had nothing on them. And he said, I'm a journalism major. And so he invented liner notes, wrote about the artists. And then they said, okay, well, you're not a mail boy anymore. You're a junior vice president. We're going to send you down to Tennessee. So he went down to Tennessee, found someone at a country fair, and they thought it would be a good way to sell sheet music. Came back, said, I have this guy down in Tennessee. I think he'd sell sheet music. He said, I want to bring Steve Scholes from RCA Victor Records. And they said, well, that's our number one client. If you're wrong, you're fired. So he said, well, how about if I bring my 4-year-old son with me? So I went, got on a plane wearing my little New York suit with a little bow tie, and got in a limousine, and we went out to this little 2-bedroom house in Memphis, Tennessee, and the grown-ups were talking in the kitchen, and Elvis came out, nailed a dartboard to his mother's front door, and Elvis and I played darts for the next half hour. So my dad ended up in the music business. So I met a lot of people in the music business. I'm not a very good singer, to say the least. My dad wrote some songs for me, introduced me to people. And I go, this is the 60s, I'll be a teenage rebel. He's, all into the music business. So I decided to go to college and end up in medical school as a teenage rebel.
Okay.
So, but I felt, we'd have Waylon Jennings out to our house, Johnny Cash. I knew his kids. Growing up, I interviewed one of them later on my TV show, and she didn't remember me. She was 9 years old when we met. So I've always felt comfortable. That's something my dad gave me. And so, for me, it's how do you continue a relationship with someone? And so with Elvis, he's part of our family, as Colonel Parker even more so. I've done paintings about him, and he bought my microscope when I went to medical school, and my dad would call me up with liver test results that I go, this isn't a good person's laboratory test. So it's just always been at the edge, but we got involved in medicine and pediatrics and building this program here. It took me 35 years, but we've built a hospital, Ronald McDonald Family Living Center. I built camps out at Circle X Ranch and Girl Scout camp out here in Camp Arnez. But people, I have one of my patients' fathers was involved in music, some of all music, and so it's a film composing club. And so he said, well, join up. And so I go, okay, I'll join up. And so on Thursdays or Wednesdays we'd meet up, and then got involved in films there, doing composing for film scores and the like. And so that, yeah, I feel comfortable with celebrities as you do, and they're just people, and they have ambition. And it lets me travel, continue my relationship with my father, and continue my relationship with Elvis. We had Elvis Presley's Cadillac was in our garage for 10 years. It's now in the Country Music Hall of Fame. And my now ex-wife is a songwriter, singer-songwriter, and we were in Nashville for something else. And I had a friend said, oh, let's go record some of your wife's songs. And we did. And it turns out it was Faith Hill's band she was recording with, but they all need side work. And as we were walking by the Country Music Hall of Fame, I said, oh, my father has a library inside the Country Music Hall of Fame. He's helped start it. And that Cadillac was in our garage. And a person who I thought was working at a church as a mixer for religious songs goes, oh, well, I'm in the Country Music Hall of Fame too. Well, he was with Melissa Etheridge and the like. So it's a small world, and it stays with us.
The pediatric side of it, this area of expertise, is this more delicate, more difficult than actually dealing with adults?
Well, adults did it to themselves. And so when I first came here from Northern California, I go, this is the most incredible pathology I've ever seen. I mean, just severe heart disease, lung disease, kidney disease, liver disease. So I called my friends up in Los Angeles, and I had the head of oncology, Dr. Stuart Siegel, come up. He was our oncologist. He'd come up once a month. I said, I'll cover the other 29 days. Dr. Marva Men from UCLA, Pediatric GI, I'll cover the other 29 days. So people are afraid of sick children. There's nothing to be afraid of. They need kindness and compassion. You can have empathy. That's an emotion, but compassion is putting that is action. So we want to put our compassion into action. And that's what dealing with kids is feeling what they're feeling, but really putting it into action. With adults, you guys smoke and take drugs and vape and all that, and you're doing it to yourselves. And the whole fentanyl thing, that's adults doing it to themselves. So kids are innocents. They're born with something, and you want to feel what they are feeling and help them to lead a normal life. And that's why I built camps. My wife was a child life specialist, my first wife who's passed. And so that's why I helped build this Ronald McDonald Family Living Center and Circle X Ranch, and just so kids have a place to be kids and be around their own kind too. So if I have one of my kids with Down syndrome or muscular dystrophy or whatever, and I see them in Vaughn's, I say, people look away. I go, don't look away. Get into their lives. Have some empathy. Be compassionate.
Let me ask you a question. How come Southern California has Cedars-Sinai, St. John's, Loma Linda Medical Center, USC Medical? Like, how come it's kind of some of the best in the world is here in Southern California? These places are like world renowned. Why is that?
Well, 1 out of every 8 people in the United States lives in California, so we have that population density. We have the California tax we pay for all this nice weather and the like, so that makes it a little easier. A lot of academicians go from institution to institution, so it's also having those big donors. I tried to get UCLA and Children's Hospital Los Angeles to build one hospital, and it took 5 years because we had the earthquake money. It took me 5 years, and at the end, the Bruin donors didn't want to be known as Trojans, and the Trojan donors didn't want to be known as Bruins, so it ended up being 2 separate hospitals. Right now, we're trying to put together a research between UCLA, USC, Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and Cedars, and I can take a lung swab and turn it into a lung down at Cedars with pluripotential stem cells. But getting people to talk to one another is a little hard, even though we're all in one place. I was remarking, someone was helping me out, and I said, oh, thank you for being in Switzerland. He said, oh, Dr. Landon, it's more like the Ukraine. So there's academic stuff where they don't necessarily cooperate with one another.
Here's a hard question. How would you describe yourself? How would someone else describe you?
Hopefully kind, compassionate, empathetic. Yeah, I mean that's really what I'm looking for. I want people to succeed. I take on kids who haven't gotten into medical school, and they stay with me for a couple years, and any medical school is going to want them. So we do interesting research and really passing on that compassion, that caring. I ask people just bring your heart to work. And that's what we do here in my clinic, is we bring our hearts to work. Well, I've been interested in technology since I was 16 years old. I was bringing a chest x-ray from Alaska through a 2 kilobyte per second line. So if you can imagine, that's not terabytes, that's not megabytes, that's a little piece of information crossing slowly. So technology's been very important to me. I got to meet Dr. Sorensen, who invented something called QuickTime, which you guys know about. And he just goes, oh, well, if this is black and everything, all the other 8 things around are black, we'll just call it one piece of black, or one piece of white, or one piece of green. And that way we can compress things, and all that technology comes. And that came because his daughter was deaf. And his daughter would go to an emergency room, and nobody was able to do sign language with her. So we invented this small something that you could put into what at the time was a Windows computer, I suppose, and that way she could communicate. So right now I have an AI company called Vironix, and we do artificial intelligence and remote patient monitoring. This was just it was a very nice young man, a mathematician who's on faculty at Oxford University, and he'd come up with a way so that the computer was smarter than the doctors, that it was able to predict when a patient needed to go in the hospital 5 days beforehand. If you Google Dr. Landon and asthma, I had someone who just graduated from West Texas University, and she gave me a call. She says, I don't know who you are, you don't know who I am, but if you could give us a hand. And so we came up with a talking inhaler. So it's a big problem is people don't, they're handed an inhaler and they don't, do I squirt in the air? This one talks to you and talks you through it. And then I can also monitor you at home. I've put Bluetooth in airway clearance devices, Bluetooth in inhalation devices. So because I've had that clinical background, I know just enough engineering and science that I can talk to those guys. I'm an outgoing engineer. I don't just look at my shoes, I'll look at your shoes too.
How much does the technology excite you when it comes to what you've seen from when you first started to where you are now today? And how would you describe the speed at which technology is moving, and how's that going to help people in the future?
Well, as a pediatrician, technology is scary. I had a crew out here from South Korea, and they'd had a child die because the parents are so involved in video games they forgot to feed the child. So they're putting iPhone holders in strollers. So at 6 months of age, you've got something, and that changes your pathways in your brain, just like narcotic addiction changes your pathways in your brain. I mean, you could cut somebody's hand off now, and it'll walk around the bed until it finds the iPhone. You just know where it is. So that part's scary. And right now we have an insufficient number of doctors, and so there is going to be a reliance on AI to provide basic information. They actually have this chat GPT. I have doctors look up how to be compassionate because they don't have that. And I work with practitioners in Thailand where I'm the doctor, and the word I won't say it in Thai, is sick patient. That's the way they refer to whoever is in the room with them. So we're just teaching them, hi, how would you like to be addressed? Are you an aunt? Are you a grandmother? What's your name? What do I need to know about you? And if we take 40 seconds of compassion, it changes the outcome. 80% of medicine is about social determinants of health. I can prescribe drugs all day. So can we get AI to be compassionate? Can be a robot to be compassionate, to put that empathy, the feeling into action? And that's really, hopefully, where AI will be going.
Well, thank you very much. Those are insane answers, meticulous, marvelous answers. I love them.
Well, yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Question about,
Sure.
Oh, mine.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's people out there who are watching right now. They might be 14, 15, 16. Can you speak about like the wonder that you first recognized that you had? Obviously, you spoke earlier about kind of when you were a child, but what does that wonder look like in any field? Whether it's being in the medical profession or potentially something else. Can you describe what that wonder is for you and kind of working with kids, what that means?
So why do I wake up in the morning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Why does? Yeah. I have friends who are artists too. Ted Gall being one of them. He's a sculptor. And he works 7 days a week. He goes, this isn't work. I get up in the morning. I can't wait to get into my and sculpt. I have ideas in my head. And the same goes with any field that you're in. You're working. It's not work. So I'm a believer in the Buddhist middle way, which is working with others, learning new things, and leading a comfortable existence. There's no reason to sit out there with a begging bowl. But if you can find that, where you get to work with others, you get to learn new things every day, and lead a comfortable existence, that's really what gets you up in the morning.
Three habits that people, really quick, 3 habits that people should develop, healthy habits that can help them live a long time. Do you have anything that you'd like to share?
Well, there's 3. Well, I'll answer that thing twice. So every single child who comes in my office, I go, oh, have you been good today? And they say, oh, yes, I've been good. I go, did you tell your mother you love her? Yes. Did you make your bed? Hey, did you help with the dishes last night? Well, Jeff Bezos does that. I don't know if he makes his own bed or washes his dishes anymore, but just getting into healthy habits. So consult or whatever, I'll be working with the Four Seasons Hotel. And these people are on health and wellness, and really a good night's sleep is really where health is. If you talk to the athletes, they're sleeping 8-10 hours a night. LeBron James, he's not up at 3 in the morning. He's getting a good night's sleep. So sleep is very important. Eating properly, we tend to do that more towards the end of our lives there, I suppose. Yes, I drink my oat milk and have my oatmeal, my blueberries and all that. But I don't really eat a whole lot of cheeseburgers anymore. So proper nutrition, things that are grown in the soil. Not a big believer in making expensive urine by taking handfuls of vitamins or supplements. So just eating healthy, and then doing something that you enjoy. So every day I get up, and that's why I enjoy painting or helping with people to make movies, helping people to succeed. So things that give you joy in life. That's what leads to a long and healthy life.